Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabanson, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a very serious show for you guys here, but before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. My handle is CTABANZ if you're not following me on there. So let's get into today's topic. So over the weekend, over the weekend, a few days ago, let me say on last week, Friday or so, we produced a show that was centered on some explosive comments that Ray Lewis made when he was on the PBD podcast, right? So as you guys know, Ray Lewis and Shannon Sharpe used to be very close. They used to be teammates on the Baltimore Ravens. I think they won a Super Bowl together in 2000, if I'm not mistaken. I do remember them. I think at one point Shannon was staying with Ray or Ray was staying with Shannon, something like that. You can even go look up old videos of them on Hard Knocks on YouTube. Very, very funny clips. But since then, Shannon Sharpe has become one of the biggest voices in sports media, although he's had some legal issues that he had to deal with this year. Nevertheless, he's still one of the biggest guys in the business. So Ray Lewis went on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, and they were talking about a bunch of things. To be fair, I didn't see the full podcast, but this clip went viral of Ray Lewis being asked about Shannon Sharpe. And essentially, Patrick Bet-David was asking him, hey, did you see Shannon becoming as big as he is today? And Ray Lewis said, yes, he saw it. And then he went on to say that, but he's been shocked at some of the things and the messaging from Shannon Sharpe. So for those of you who probably didn't hear that audio, we want to play that for you now. And then we're going to continue on with the show. So take a listen to what Ray Lewis had to say there.
Shannon Sharpe, did you think he was one day going to be a good TV guy personality?
Yeah.
So you knew he was made for TV?
Yeah.
And would he say he's going to do it?
Yes, he had already started prepping.
How much before he retired did he tell him?
Been started.
Oh, so he's known he's going to be doing that.
Yeah.
So you're not surprised by the success he's having with his podcast and TV and him and Skip and Stephen A., all that stuff?
No, I'm not surprised. I'm shocked at his content. I wouldn't, in a million years, the things that Shannon has said now or did now, I would never believe that Shannon would say or do any of this.
Like what?
Simply, I take drinking. Shannon, in my entire career, I've never saw Shannon with a drink. Ever. Like it was against the law, right? Because he had some stuff in his family that he didn't want to follow that. And then so I kind of started to watch him, and then we kind of went our own separate ways because I'm like, you're going to take that route. I can't go that route. Never can go that route. And that route is to become so worldly that you become popular because you're talking about ignorance, right? A lot of times, a lot of these gossip conversations that they're having and bringing up all this stuff, I'm not going to do that to nobody. I'm not in the business for that. I'm in life to try to teach people what does it mean to be a better man or get back to the kingdom, And a lot of times, a lot of the guys get in trouble with these podcasts and things, man, because everybody wants the follower. Everybody wants to be popular. Everybody wants to make money. But that's a tight rope into what you call influence and popularity. Right? The devil has the ability to make you popular. God has the ability to give you influence that when people see you, they see an image of him. And that's the thing for me that started to switch with not just Shannon, but just a couple of people. I'm like, wow. Would switch out like that? Really? And I would never, ever. Why? Because of the respect that I have for my mother, my daughters, my granddaughters, life, period. And I think men, given these new platforms, we've overrode what the platform is actually for. The platform is supposed to help somebody find a new direction. We don't help. Everybody just gets on. Everybody's talking now. Everybody got a podcast. Everybody's the new marriage coach. Everybody's the new relationship coach. And ain't nobody coaching themselves. Because if you were coaching yourself, when it says power of life and death is found in the tongue, then go back and check out a couple of your episodes and ask yourself, do you give life or do you give death? And that's why me personally, I kind of do my own thing.
Excellent. So you heard his comments. Now, as you guys know, I'm not a really big football guy. But apparently there was a story surrounding Ray Lewis about a fatality that took place around 2000, and people were pushing back on this. And I just want to quickly give the context here. So it says Ray Lewis was not convicted of murder, but he was charged with it following a street fight outside an Atlanta nightclub in 2000 that resulted in the deaths of Jackneth Baker and Richard Lawler. Lewis, along with two friends, Reginald Oakley and Joseph Sweeting, were initially charged with murder, but pleaded down to obstruction of justice. Lewis became the state's key witness, and the other two men were acquitted of murder charges after a jury found the killings to be an act of self-defense, right? Well, apparently, this is something that really stood out to a lot of people, because a lot of people were essentially saying, how can you, Ray Lewis of all people, speak about virtue, speaking about going to heaven and all of that, those different things? And they started to call him out online. So I want to read some comments from a post here that I got from the Art of Dialogue on Twitter. And the reason I want to talk about this one is because this post generated 2.3 million views. And I just want to go through some of the comments from what people said. So it says, one guy says, coming from someone that was charged with a double murder in 2000. Another guy says, talking about gossip podcasts while being on a podcast gossiping. Make it make sense. Another guy says, was he feeling this way before or after he was acquitted of murder? Most of us are old enough to remember how Ray Lewis used to live. Another guy said, he beat a M charge, so now for the rest of his life, he's got to act holier than thou. A man died because of you, but Shannon picking up drinking Henny is where you draw the line, is crazy. Continues on. Another guy says, shocked about what content? What is he talking about? Another guy says, I understand how the perception of Shannon Sharpe has been, and so much assumptions more than that, but I would be upset. Hear Ray say this because I believe Shannon was there for Ray at his lowest and darkest time in his life. Another guy said, imagine a murderer criticizing someone's freedom of speech. Another guy said, didn't Ray X a guy? And then it just kept on going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And essentially what people are saying, based off of what I can ascertain from this, is that people are calling out Ray Lewis because he was acting sanctimonious on Patrick Davis' podcast in terms of the comments that he made about Shannon Sharpe, when he himself has a history. And that's what people are calling him out for. Now, whether or not he was acquitted of it is irrelevant. What matters is that you were a part of it in some people's mind. You think of the case of Kobe. That case was dismissed ultimately, but people still call him that, right? When people want to stigmatize you, they hold on to things even if it wasn't proven to be true. That's what they want to do. But guys, here's the thing. Let's say we grant you that all of the things you said about Ray Lewis are correct, even though they're wrong. How does that change what he's saying? Because to me, it comes off as a deflection. Yes, I understand the messenger may be flawed, but is the message flawed? And I think people are trying to dismiss Ray Lewis by saying, well, you are no one to be talking, as if to say the points that he's making aren't valid. And he's making some valid points. And the things that Ray Lewis is talking about, for example, the drinking, as I said on the live that we did, I was surprised to hear from other people when they said Shannon Sharpe never used to drink. And I'm like, Shannon Sharpe never used to drink? What are you talking about? He does this and does that. He's like, he doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He don't do none of that. I said, but what about this person? He said, that's just a character he's playing. And then when I heard Steven Jackson interview Skip Bayless, and he was like, that character was making him feel uncomfortable. Then Stephen A. Smith said that character was making him feel uncomfortable. So basically, these guys were saying that Shannon put on a mask to make money. Now, the fact of the matter is this. Do people get into character and pretend to be people that they're not to be successful? Yes, they do. My thing is this. If you're going to do it, which you have every right to do it, and you're going to benefit by doing it, don't get upset when people point out what you're doing. Don't get upset, because in fact, you are doing it. You are playing a character. You're putting on a clown suit. So don't be upset that people say, hey, bro, this is what you're doing. This is my thing. Because if you're going to benefit from it and all that, you're just basically saying, well, you don't get to say nothing. No, we can have an opinion on it. We can have an opinion on it, especially when we notice that, wait a minute, this behavior doesn't match what we as people know you in real life to be. I gave the example of Marcellus Wiley, and I'm going to bring it up again. You see how cool and natural and down-to-earth Marcellus Wiley is when you see him on YouTube or wherever else? It's the exact same way when you talk to him. You're not like, oh, is this there's no different person. It's one person. Every time you talk to him, he's the same person. He's not playing a character. And to me, that speaks to one's authenticity. You don't have to be somebody else to be successful. You're being successful in your own skin. And I just want to divert quickly here. Go off topic. I tuned into a guy talking about Nas yesterday. And he brought up a point about Nas that I didn't notice. Growing up, Nas wasn't one of like my favorite rappers. Now in my 30s, Nas is bro. It's Nas, and I mean, Nas is there. I listen to Dave East, but Nas is just incredible, right? And he says something about Nas that I thought was pretty interesting. He said, if you look at everybody throughout the course of their career, they've had to reinvent themselves and change and adapt to the times. He said Nas never did that. Nas never tried to sound like the South or tried to sound like the West. Nas always sounded like himself, and instead what Nas did was he evolved as a person. And you could tell by the things he was talking about. But he wasn't trying to chase trends or all of a sudden start rapping in a certain cadence or sound like like the way rappers rap today. He was like, Nas always stayed true to himself. And I think that's one of the reasons he's been able to retain his core fan base for decades. He says Nas never tried to look at what that guy is doing. Let me do that. Let me throw on this act. He never did that. He stayed true to who he is. And I think that's powerful. There's a lot of power in being yourself. But some people know that being yourself may not get them the bag that they want. So they're going to put on a clown suit. That's just the facts of the matter. And if somebody says, hey, man, you have a red nose, you have makeup on your face, don't be upset if you are acting like a clown, and some people point it out. These are my thoughts. Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts in the comment section. We catch you guys on the next show. Peace.